Imagine it is 2 in the morning. The whole house is quiet, and you are standing over a sleeping baby. Maybe your own child, maybe a younger sibling, maybe a niece or nephew you are babysitting. And just as you are about to tiptoe away, it happens. A smile, slow and soft and absolutely perfect, spreading across that tiny sleeping face with no warning and no explanation. And in that moment, something happens inside you that is very hard to put into words. A warmth so sudden and so overwhelming that your eyes fill with tears before you even realize it. And you stand there frozen, wondering, what is that baby smiling about? What are they seeing behind those closed eyes? Where exactly have they gone in their sleep? And does that smile mean what it feels like it means? That question has haunted parents, scientists, philosophers, and poets for as long as human beings have been watching babies sleep. And the answer, the real, science-backed, deeply moving answer, is so much more extraordinary than most people expect. And by the time this video ends, you will understand not just why babies smile in their sleep, but what that smile quietly tells us about the nature of consciousness, about the mystery of the newborn mind, and about the oldest and most invisible bond that exists between a human being and the world they are just beginning to discover. Let us start at the very beginning, which, in this case, means starting in the dark. Not the dark of night, but the dark of the womb. Because the story of a baby's sleeping smile does not begin after birth. It begins months before it, in the warm, quiet world where a baby first learns what it means to exist. Researchers studying fetal development have found that babies begin producing rapid eye movement sleep, what we know as REM sleep, the stage most associated with dreaming, while still inside the womb, as early as 23 weeks of gestation, which means that long before a baby has ever seen a face, heard a voice outside the body, or felt sunlight on their skin, they are already spending enormous amounts of time in the mysterious landscape of sleep. And whatever is happening in there is important enough that nature decided it needed to start before birth itself. Now here is the first thing that surprises most people. A newborn baby sleeps between 16 and 18 hours a day, and nearly half of that sleep, is spent in active REM sleep, which is far more than any adult ever experiences, because adults spend only about 20% of their sleep in REM, and that enormous difference is not accidental. It is one of the most important clues to understanding what the sleeping baby brain is actually doing and why those small, flickering smiles appear the way they do. When a baby enters REM sleep, you can see it happening. Their eyelids flutter, their tiny fingers curl and uncurl. Their face moves through an entire silent vocabulary of expressions. A frown, a pout, a look of wide-eyed surprise, and then the one that stops every parent's heart. That sudden, unmistakable, soul-melting smile. And scientists have a name for these expressions. They call them spontaneous facial movements. And for years, the official scientific position was that these smiles were reflexive, meaning they had no emotional content. They were just random misfires of an immature nervous system. They meant nothing. But here is the first big twist in this story, because more recent research has started to push back on that idea in ways that are genuinely breathtaking. A study published in the journal Current Biology found something remarkable. Newborns, even in their very first days of life, are producing smiles during sleep that involve the same muscle patterns, the same neurological activation, and the same expressive quality as genuine social smiles. The kind of smiles that, in older babies and adults, are directly linked to positive emotion and social connection. Which means the "it's just a reflex" explanation starts to look a lot less convincing, and a new question opens up. If these sleeping smiles look real, if they activate the same circuits as real smiles, then what exactly is making the baby smile? And what does that tell us about what is happening inside a sleeping newborn's mind? To understand this, you have to understand something about what REM sleep actually does, not just for babies but for all of us. Because REM sleep is not rest, it is the opposite of rest. It is the brain working at full intensity, processing everything it has absorbed during waking hours, making connections between memories, sorting through emotions, testing responses, building the neural architecture that will support everything from language to empathy to the ability to read another person's face. And in a baby who is absorbing the world at a rate and an intensity that no adult brain can match, this processing is happening on a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. Every sound the baby heard, every touch they felt, every face they saw, every moment of warmth or hunger or soothing or startling, all of it gets filed, sorted, connected, and woven into the growing structure of the brain during those long hours of REM sleep. And the smiles that flicker across the baby's face during this process may be the outward signal of something genuinely joyful happening inside, a neural echo of a pleasant experience being processed, a memory of warmth being filed, a connection being made that feels on some level good. Think about that for a moment. The idea that when your baby smiles in their sleep, they might be re-experiencing something kind that happened to them while they were awake, a moment of being held, a voice they love, a warmth that felt like safety. And the smile is the brain's way of saying, yes, this was good, file this under good, remember this. And if that is true, then every single loving thing you do for your baby during the day is not just a moment that passes, it is material, raw material, that gets carried into the night and processed and smiled about in the quiet dark, which is one of the most tender and astonishing ideas that science has ever handed to parents. Now here is the second twist, and this one is even more surprising. It is not only pleasant experiences that babies process during REM sleep. The brain, in its wisdom, also uses this time to process and rehearse social skills, specifically the skill of smiling itself. And this is where the story gets genuinely extraordinary, because research in developmental neuroscience has shown that the sleeping brain of a newborn is essentially running simulations, practicing the tools it will need for the waking world. And one of the most important tools a human being needs is the social smile. The smile that says, I am friendly, I am open, I am part of your tribe, please don't leave me. And so the brain rehearses it in sleep, fires the circuits, checks the connections, makes sure the machinery works, so that when the baby opens their eyes and sees a face they love, the smile will be ready, will be real, will land. And when you understand that, the sleeping smile transforms from something mysterious and random into something that is almost heartbreakingly purposeful. A tiny creature alone in the dark, rehearsing the most human thing they know how to do. There is also a biological dimension to this story that connects the sleeping smile to the deepest layers of human evolution. Because smiling is not a trivial thing. It is one of the most powerful social signals our species possesses. It signals non-aggression, affiliation, warmth, and trustworthiness. And a baby who can smile effectively is a baby who will be held more, spoken to more, responded to more, cared for more, which means the ability to produce a compelling, authentic, well-timed smile is, from the perspective of evolution, a survival skill of the highest order. And the fact that the brain begins practicing this skill before the baby is even born tells you everything about how seriously nature takes the business of human connection. Parents who have watched their baby sleep and seen that smile often describe it as feeling like a message, like the baby is communicating something from a place that language cannot reach, and there is a reason it feels that way, because in some sense, that is exactly what it is. A signal from a consciousness that is just beginning to take shape, a consciousness that has no words yet, but already has feelings, already has preferences, already has the capacity for something that functions very much like joy. And the smile is the evidence, the proof written on a sleeping face that even in the very earliest days of life, the interior world of a human being is not empty, it is not silent, it is alive and active and full of something. What does this mean for the people who love these babies? It means that the environment you create around a baby during their waking hours is not just affecting that moment. It is shaping the content of their inner life during sleep. It is giving their brain the raw material it will use to build itself. And every gentle voice, every warm hold, every face that leaned in close and smiled back is not just a nice thing you did. It is an investment that the baby's sleeping brain is actively working with night after night in the quiet hours when you cannot see what is happening. But something extraordinary is happening all the same. Scientists who study infant sleep also point to the role of a neurochemical called serotonin, which is one of the brain's primary mood-regulating molecules. And research has shown that serotonin pathways are active during REM sleep in ways that may contribute to the production of positive emotional states, which means that the sleeping smile may not just be a memory of joy, it may be joy itself, a moment of genuine positive feeling experienced by a brain that is not yet awake, in a body that is perfectly still, in the silence of a room that thinks nothing important is happening. And yet, something magnificent is happening, something so quiet and so vast that we are only just beginning to understand it. There is one more layer to this story that tends to reach people somewhere very deep, and it is this: the fact that babies smile before they have been taught to smile, before they have seen enough of the world to have reasons to smile, before they have language or memory or understanding of what a smile even means. This tells us something profound about human nature itself. It tells us that joy is not something we learn. It is something we arrive with. It is not a product of the world going right for us. It is a factory setting, a default state, the original condition of a human being before the world gets a chance to complicate things. And there is something in that idea that feels like a gift, like a reminder, like something worth carrying with you long after this video ends. So the next time you stand over a sleeping baby and you see that smile appear out of nowhere in the middle of the night, you can let it fill you the way it always does. But now you will also know what it means. You will know that inside that small sleeping body, a brain is working, sorting, building, rehearsing, processing love and warmth and sound and touch and turning all of it into the architecture of a human being. And the smile is the window, the tiny visible proof that something beautiful is happening in the dark, that the baby is not lost in sleep but busy in it, that the night is not empty but full, and that every good thing you have given that child is still alive inside them, still being held, still being smiled about, in the quiet and sacred hours when the world is still and the brain is anything but. Subscribe for more Mind Secrets.